edge of the universe, 400 men and women are probing the immeasurable blackness of space. Their leaders are an Earthman with no fear and a stranger with no heart. Travel beyond our time and solar system, into new galaxies, into worlds beyond your dreams. Star Trek, every week, in color.
Man, it's that time. It's Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Earth time. Time to kick back, crack open a frosty Romulan ale, and maybe chill with a friend. I unfortunately might have to bail early again today, so I'm calling from the back of my Johnny cab, and but that's not going to stop us. We don't have Dr. Price, but we do have the Doctor of Fun. Captain Fun, that is, Larry Young. Hey, what's up, Captain?
Dantron and Johnny Cab. I looked at that really fast and I thought, oh, what Star Trek thing is that? Because it's got the round angles and the beige color, and I'm like, oh, it's a back seat of a car. It looks like
it's just the back seat of a car.
It looks like the Enterprise D or something, Or
no, and it's a little too big, like for what I'm doing here, but it felt futury. It felt like future cars will be more padded.
I think that's about right. You just look like you're 12. That's all.
And we'll be able to hopefully we'll be able to smack our drivers while you knucklehead.
That's that kind of, entertaining animation that people just take for granted here on Serious Star Trek.
I'm glad you brought that up, Larry. Can I talk for a second? Just again, I just want to do a little plug here for the show. And my dream, folks, is that I could spend 2 or 3 days a week just working on special effects for Star Trek, like setting up, but doing a video gag every single week. That's more than just like cutouts spinning around, like doing some real stuff and some real special effects. I don't know how I'll get to do that, but I know you can help me. Here's how you can help. You go to YouTube. You make sure you subscribe to this channel. Click like on this video. And, maybe kick us a super chat if you want to. Maybe subscribe, kick $1 a month or something in for Serious Star Trek. And I'll do what I can. If we can build enough of a following, I promise I'm going to devote as many resources as I can to this kind of stuff. So commercial gone. Click like if you liked it. Click thumbs down if you don't, but leave a comment and tell us why. How about that, Larry?
That sounds great. I hope you're enjoying my t-shirt, the Exeter shirt that I've every time I've worn it out in the world, people go, that's misspelled. And I always go, I know. And then they look confused.
I'm confused. What's the gag?
One of two things happens. One, they just go, and go about their day, which is great. I don't care about you people. That's fine. We have had a great interaction. Like, you're not bothering me and I'm not bothering you. But these are do you know the disco shirts from Star Trek Discovery? They had the gym workout shirts and it just said disco.
Oh, okay.
It was the dumbest goddamn thing ever. And then they put little white arrowheads on the side and they're like, "Ooh, buy them for $25." I'm like, there's no goddamn way. So John made one and just wrote "sucks" under it. Right. And Mike Okuda, the Star Trek legend of all time that made the graphic design interface of the instruments and stuff, they call them Okudagrams. He went after old John. He's like, that's uncalled for. People are trying. It was really funny.
But it's so funny just because of disco sucks. And that was such a catchphrase.
Of course.
70s, right?
Right.
And maybe he didn't know that.
No. Of course he knew that because he's older than the two of us put together. Yeah. But what he was doing is he's worked on Star Trek for very long. He knows all those guys. Everybody's really trying their best. And it was killing everybody who loves Star Trek. The Discovery sucks so bad. And so they tried to go, yeah, no, it's great. And it's like, you can't do that. No, it wasn't good. So this sounds like a long story, and it kind of is, but it's entertaining. So now Lower Decks comes out. And then they just did a joke where they had blue t-shirts that said Ritos. And Chris Sagasag and I love those. I bought the Rito shirt immediately because it's this giant, like, you can't make fetch happen, but you can make it funny. you know? So like all the people who have disco shirts, I don't like. So then I thought, what are some of the other, what would you do with the other ships? Because, you know, I love the Exeter from the Omega Glory. And I'm just like really mad that John Cooley and people like him are like, no, we're taking those insignias away from no, that's what the crews of other ships rally behind, right? So I got a couple shirts and I redid this. There's this cool thing called direct to film transfer. It's unfortunately DTF. But you can take literally anything that you can make a JPEG out of, you can make into an iron-on transfer.
Oh yeah, sure.
And so I got the font and just started doing ships. So I made one for John. The ship he loves is the Intrepid. So it says Trepid. I actually made his say Intrepid because Trepid sounds like, oh, I have trepidation that I'm on this ship, right? So I put the N on there, and if you cut the N off if you don't want it, man, there's yours. But I made Exeter for me, and I made I made 3 of them. Oh, Yorktown. I made one that said K-Town, and I've been wearing that a lot because it looks like something.
I just want one that says Mertz, I guess.
Yeah, no, but yeah, Mertz would work because 5 letters, right?
Yeah,
but you want to try to. You want to try to like truncate it a little.
I got you.
So people get the joke. Because I would just have put Exeter on here and to wear under my Exeter jacket.
Larry, Mertz, the USS Fred Mertz reference is buried under so many layers of.
You might as well call it the Mertz, right?
Whatever, yeah. Everybody calls it the Mertz, right? You know what's fun? You know, in Starship Troopers, one of the details of the book that they had was like the guys didn't get to have any customizations except like if they've been in battle, they got to wear like a little earring.
Right.
And, like, every time they'd actually deployed into battle and done like an actual drop. Right. And it got me thinking again about Starship Troopers and how we never really seen the true vision of Starship Troopers. And that's one that they should reboot and they could give us something completely new we haven't seen before.
I think they have. You just haven't seen it because you didn't know it exists.
Those sequels.
But there's been like 5 direct-to-video.
Yeah, I know.
But there's been a cartoon, an animated show. That's pretty much the book.
The Japanese one? The Japanese one? Oh, I've
seen that and the drop and all that stuff. It's pretty good.
That I've seen pieces of, but like I'm saying, if
that was live action, that would be the best movie ever made.
That's what I mean. Like, there's room to remake Starship Troopers and not just do it as a shot-for-shot Verhoeven remake and give us something new we haven't seen before, but yet we know Starship Troopers and aspects of the story that, because it's way, 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 way different than the movie, which I love. Mm-hmm. But like so different in such cool ways. The way they do the psychics in the
the whole like classroom stuff just by itself.
The classroom, it's cool. They do a little bit of that in the movie at least.
Yeah, but I mean it's so like they just nod to it at the movie, and it's like you take that Michael Ironside character and just like follow him for a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think they will do that someday.
In the book, though, when they finally like the psychic, there's all this military action because they got to bring in the psychic dude who's just, it's not like Doogie Howser in the psychic corps or whatever. Right. It's just like a little like wispy dude in a kind of like, I imagine him in like a gown, and he's sort of like just walking around and just like, oh, I think this. And it's really different in a cool way. And then also the whole thing with the drop ship and the suits, that's something we haven't really seen.
I agree.
In a movie?
They kind of nodded to it with what was that Tom Cruise movie, Edge of Tomorrow?
Yes.
And that was pretty clear that they were trying to do the book the novel Starship Trooper suits when they drop and they can come in and out of suborbit just wearing a suit.
It's so great.
And holding their guns. That's awesome.
and I think Cameron in Aliens, especially in Aliens, nailed the Colonial Marines and then couldn't do the drop suits thing, but gave us the power loader kind of almost as a little nod to it. I just want to see those because like everyone has been lower budget. They could do the aliens, but they couldn't do the bug aliens plus the drop suits. And anyway, I would love it. That's on my list
agree.
of things I want to see.
All right, there's Hector. Where's Dr. Price, PhD? Let's start some rumors. I don't know. He's probably just late from work, but he does live in Virginia. So maybe he's I kind of don't want to come up with some crazy thing because like we'll hear like, oh yeah, he got robbed in a liquor store and his leg broken or something, and I'll be like, oh, I don't want to cause him that.
The doctor indeed.
The doctor is out.
Yeah, well, that's okay. We might have to cut this one short if I got to leave, or Larry could fly solo on instruments. I think that would be amazing.
Let's we'll get there. Well, let's cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah,
I love that Dave Porter goes, I remember that. I'm pretty sure he's talking about when Mike Okuda gave John Price shit. See, that's right there is why I'm not on Twitter, right? John Price, Mike Okuda gives him shit. That would make me cry, right? No, but wait, the second one, Terry Metalis like blocked him. I'd be like, what's the point? You know, the people you want to talk to don't want to hear what you have to say. So
I've been on Twitter probably longer than anybody you know, because I adopted it like way when it was new. I have a 6-letter Twitter handle of a word. Hijinks @hijinks is my Twitter handle, right?
Nice, yeah.
And but I never figured Twitter out.
Right.
I still have not figured it out. I don't understand why it's fun to engage with or how you engage. And like people have these conversations and they do these giant tweet threads, and I go like, this just seems inconvenient, like the most inconvenient way to have a conversation online.
Agreed.
I know.
When I got one, and I have Spectacularly. I got it in like 2003 or something.
That's a good one.
And I never used it. Mimi posted a bunch of test things on it to show me how it worked. And then I tried to read somebody in comics. I tried to read their thing and I was like, I don't get it. I don't get how this works. Like he would say something and then you had to go to somebody else's land to like read the response. And I was just like, man, this isn't for me.
I think the whole thing about Twitter is that it's so like bite-sized and just tiny brained that like that the media people really glom onto it. It's just such an easy way for them to pull stupid quotes and put a whole news story around like random dude tweets this about some issue.
But I don't want that because now they do that and like the whole country freaks out and the fucking stock market drops 20 points because one guy in Omaha said, hey, I don't feel good after eating this cheese.
It's wild. Sometimes they'll do a story and it'll be like the reaction. It's just a cheap and lazy way, I guess. Speaking of cheap and lazy, Larry. Let's talk about the Hollywood strike a little bit and the implications. Because I think what I've decided, because they're negotiating hard. They're pushing. They're trying to get a resolution, from what I understand.
I know the Writers Guild wants to figure it out for obvious reasons, but I haven't seen the studios going, oh, let's sit down at the table with these guys.
So I think I have to opt out of corporate media, like I was saying. I think I have to opt out of like Paramount Plus, HBO Max, just anything that's not created just by people for now. And solidarity. I don't know what else to do. I mean, I'm torn. Because on the one hand, I truly believe the wasteland of media and the fact that it's just such garbage, like TV has been such garbage for so long, that reputation is there for a reason. Like there's a lot of bad writing.
Yeah.
So I'm torn because I believe you could use AI as it exists right now to write formulaic, crappy sitcoms.
Well, absolutely. Because that's what AI is, right? I just did a thing. Hector said something funny yesterday about me writing or in AI or something, doing pressers. I don't know. I forget what it was, but I was like, oh, this is great. I'll do a Dirt Court column about write a review in the style of Larry Young, right? And so I'm like, well, Walker and I just watched Citadel and Mimi as well, who was paying attention with one eye because she doesn't like the boy stuff that we do. and that divided our house. So I go, this is a great thing. Let's see what AI has to say, because at least my kid will care. I'll go, look what AI thinks that I'm going to say about this. And so I did it in the most generic way possible. I said, can you write a review of the Citadel TV show on streaming in the style of writer Larry Young, who wrote, and then I listed all the columns that I had written online. So if they didn't even know who I was, they could scrape my stuff, right?
Okay.
And so I have a lot of columns, like Loose Cannon on CBR, like Proof of Concept was an actual column once. I did one cut, so I got me some enthusiasm for a place called Your Mom's Basement. I did one for Stefan Blitz. Like there's hundreds of thousands of words in columns. You don't have to go to other social media, right? And this, I can tell what it did. It went, Larry Young, oh, he writes comics. Comics means Stan Lee. Here it is, true believer. And it literally was formulaic, right? The first paragraph was like, all right, get ready, Effendi. It was literally Stan Lee's soapbox in 2023. But then it took the word Citadel and TV, and it kind of didn't know what to do. And I was like, that's weird, because this is a show on, there's tons of reviewers writing about it. And I
current show though.
Right. Current. And so because
ChatGPT doesn't know anything from before.
Oh, that makes sense. Right. Anything before
2021. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's good. That explains a little then, because it started writing about this cool new movie with Bryan Cranston. And I reverse engineered, like, what does Bryan Cranston have to do with Citadel? And like a couple of years ago, pre-2020 or 2021, he did a theatrical version of Network playing Harold Beale. Beale, the main character, the guy who freaks out. I'm Manicill. No, I got to take it in. Bryan Cranston. Like, that's great. But what's that got to do with Citadel? It was at the Citadel Theater in Edmonton.
Ah, Canada. That's awesome. That's awesome.
But it generated 12 paragraphs about how this awesome new show.
Yeah.
Just based on comics means Stan Lee. And here's the only thing we got for Citadel and acting, right? It was cool.
Here's the thing, Larry. How many? You ever talked to a reporter?
Yeah.
And been quoted on a story, like a real news reporter, like in a real newspaper.
Yeah. Well, Mimi's dad was an on-air guy for Channel 4 for years.
Okay, that's TV too. But
I love journalists. But yeah, the guys with a little flip pad, yes.
And they always get it wrong. Like every time I had somebody come in and do an interview or an article, they had what they wanted the story to be about. They took what I said and they just smushed those two things together.
Yes.
And did zero or less than zero research. And I go like, dude, we've set the bar so low for ourselves as humanity. And what we're willing to accept out of journalism and entertainment writing and everything else, that I feel like maybe this is like the turning point where, like, to usher in a new era of like innovative storytelling. It's either that or die or collapse, right? You're gonna have to try new stuff.
I think it's gonna be. I honestly think it's gonna be The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. That there's gonna be Morlocks and Eli, and there's gonna be the wispy mind reader guys with cool fabrics and 300 count Egyptian cotton, and just fucking lugs with tool belts hitting each other because Ow My Nuts wasn't that great last night. Or whatever they're watching.
It's why when we get to the point where like AI writes all our code for us and nobody knows how to code, they only know how to talk to the AI that writes the code. And like I start thinking about Dune, and you remember in Dune how it's like there was an AI uprising, and then they outlawed all computers and machines, and like so humanity had to evolve their mind through the spice. And I just feel like that's
one of the things
have to happen here.
Mimi follows this as well as you do for the same reasons. I imagine it's going to impact her career, right? And she was telling me about this one thing where it's like AI is really like violent and racist and is nonsense because that's what it gets from the writings of mankind.
Of course.
And so I think that's probably what's going to happen too. That like there's going to be two sets of AI. There's going to be the Coke and Budweiser AI that most people use, and then there's going to be like, AI Plus, where it's like you or IMDb Pro, where if you're in the career where you need to a little more cleverness to you'll have to pay more for the AI that makes metaphors and subject leaps and stuff like that. And that's just going to be for the one percenters, and everybody else is going to get out my balls.
You want to hear what's crazy though is that the AI, what I'm hearing out of the AI like community and developer community and stuff, even from inside Facebook and Google, they're saying, guys, we're getting lapped by the open source community on this stuff. It's like we're moving at our speed and they are moving at a whole other speed without any of the moral or ethical restrictions that they're imposing. It's like, because that's going to be the thing.
The AI's coming for you.
Larry, can you vamp for a second?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude.
I'm sorry, AI. We won't be talking about this any longer. So yeah, let's put this up again so I can ask Hector what the hell he was talking about. This is what prompted me to do that AI thing on Door Court. But he's like, according to B.A. Baracus, which we all know is Mr. T, AI is a crappy artist with a good knowledge of reference material. I don't get the Mr. T part there. I didn't understand, but I was like, you're right. AI sucks. Well, I'm going to use that as a jumping point to show you it absolutely sucks.
Hey, great news, everybody. So Mrs. Dantron just called in from the shuttlecraft, and she is going to take
cool,
the kid to her dance class.
Yeah. So we get to chat.
We get to chat. And so I'm going to hop out of the Johnny Cab for a second, Larry. And while we're on this topic, I want to hop into the neighborhood of make-believe for a second. Because I wanted to show a cool application of AI, generative AI even, that's a little bit different. Okay, hang on. Check. So what did I do? Wait a minute. I got this thing. This is the base of a Randy Bowen statue. It's got some green parts, so it's kind of hard to see parts of it.
Well, do you remember the statue? That's a cool.
It's Dr. Doom, and I'll show you the whole thing in a second.
Boy, Bowen designs good stuff. Sorry,
Bowen he definitely is the high water mark.
I forget his wife's name. Rocky. Oh yeah, Rocky is pretty cool too. Those are good guys.
What I worked on was figuring out a way. How do you take something from real life, like this guy, and get a pretty high fidelity model going on? I mean, there's a lot of photo scanning applications and stuff you can get, or if you have a higher end iPhone or a lot of equipment, you can do this. But there's also another way. Wait a minute. I can also do bye-bye. Wait a minute. I can also do this one. So here, what you can do is this is especially for the makers out there in the audience, like Chris Sagasag. I'm talking straight to you, buddy, because you want to check out Luma Labs AI. I'm going to show this for a second. Okay. So what you can do, so instead of having to have a fancy 3D scanner and you scan every crevice or whatever, you just take your regular old camera and take a bunch of pictures, or even better, just take a video, zoom in around stuff. Okay. And then you take it into Luma AI and it puts the AI gnomes on it. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Share this tab. Here we go. It puts the AI gnomes on it and they take your shaky, unsteady video and turn it into something a little more exciting. So you can take this thing now and you can literally look at it. It figures out how to look at this thing from every single angle, and it builds you a 3D model. We can see here the model that it figured out of where I captured this thing, and it textures it as well. Wait a minute, We can remove the background. Then it figures out like what's the part you want. And if you want to, you can even crop this thing and be like, okay, I only care about, how do you do this? Yeah, like I want to get rid of that cup on the bottom. So I'm just going to crop it out. So cool. And then you can straighten these things out and whatever. And what's neat is you can turn this into a flyby or a panorama that automatically like gives you a full 360 view. You can even change, like move the camera however you want. Or if you want to get extra fancy, you can actually download this thing and it gives you multiple different 3D files in different resolutions.
Crazy.
So you could 3D print from this if you wanted to.
And how did you scan this? You said I missed that bit.
All I did was take a video of it. I just walked around it and tried to just look at it with my video camera. Took a video that was like less than a minute long and took it into this thing, and it uses AI to figure out all the angles. And if you can see, the lighting here is like the real lighting captured in my backyard from
from all the different angles. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
cool though.
Yeah, and if you see the it's and then you can take this stuff and take it into whatever 3D. I think I have this set up here. Wait a minute. Yeah, you could take it into Blender and wait a minute. And then in Blender, you've got your actual object and you can render it out, animate it, sculpt it. In this case, I did the stuff oh my gosh, where am I? Yeah. So I did the stuff to make the spinning guy animate.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. And then, so it's actually two layers of video here.
So what's that mechanism is called photogrammetry, right?
Yeah. Photogrammetry.
But that's the part the AI is doing for you. You don't have to collect all those photos from different angles.
Yes. This is a process called NeRF.
That's so cool.
And that stands for neural. What is it? Neural radiance fields. Okay, so yeah, essentially you're capturing it all, and if you miss any parts of it, it's just going to miss that part of the geometry. But still, it takes it. So I developed a whole workflow around how to like capture a thing, bring it into Blender, animate it, turn it into multiple layers of video, and then composite it in real time. So like this wouldn't be that hard to do in an editor, but to do this in a real-time streaming like way like this.
Yeah, that's bananas cool.
Yeah.
Hey, can I just interrupt real quick to tell Chris Sagasag something that's a little time sensitive?
Yeah.
Dude, go to Star Trek Prop Enthusiasts on Facebook. If you're not a member there, you should be. And Michael Moore is a guy who worked on Next Generation and Voyager and Enterprise. He's worked in Hollywood for a million years. Is cleaning up his house and is just taking post office box shipping boxes and just putting in like 6 things, and then for $150 he'll mail it to you.
Whoa!
And he's got like all these piles of boxes, so it's just like this cool mystery box thing that's just like, oh, here's 6 of the 7 parts for you to make a production made phaser. You know what I mean? It's bananas, like how cool this stuff is. So he's done it about 3 times in the last 6 months. And I always miss it. I'm always doing something. And it just dropped 15 minutes ago. And he just sent me a thing going, "You got a box finally, Larry." So now Chris Sagasag needs a box. Star Trek Prop Enthusiasts. Go there. Tell him I said hi.
Okay. Wow.
All right. Sorry, man. This is cool because that's nothing you had to build. It's just they pulled that out of your video. That's
the beauty of it, kind of, and it gives it to you in multiple resolutions. So you can use this this is great for like working on video game stuff, but also good for 3D animation. Great for building like real life sets and doing real 3D compositing. This is the future, Larry. That's
literally where my brain went. It's like, oh, I could scan any spaceship model in here and make it look like Walker was walking out of the door.
Absolutely, you can. And you can do this, and this works Go to lumalabs.ai and just look at their examples. It's free. All you need is a freaking cell phone, which everybody has now, with a good with a decent camera on it, and you can, boom, you're done. It's literally all it takes. There's quite a few options and stuff to figure out how to get it exactly the way you want it to be. But it's worth your time. For, I don't know, I think this is a pretty cool result considering how little effort.
Yeah, that's fantastic result. That's incredible.
It took. I'm pretty happy with how this went.
Yeah, I wonder how long, because it's going at such a good rate. Like you said, the open source guys are working a little harder because there's no boss telling them, hey, don't do that, man. Yeah, look at that. That's fantastic.
See, multiple layers, and if you work it out right, you can figure out. Wait a minute, let me show you. Let's do a little like how behind the scenes.
I do wonder though, like, I don't know. I mean, I wonder how long it's going to take for people to not say AI sucks, and then because there are lots of this stuff running in the background.
This is what you're not going to know anymore. All you're going to see is what it's going to do. It's not going to replace the animator. It's not going to replace the programmer or maybe the writer. In some cases it will, but it's not going to replace the need for like a good writer to write really good stuff.
I mean, as long as I've been hearing about it, people have been, what goes first when the money starts getting tight. It's creative, friggin' marketing, all the stuff that you need people for, that like intangible stuff that your boss just has to go, yeah, he's working like a bastard. But like the main boss goes, well, how many cans of oil did he sell? And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Well, get rid of those guys. All right, but then you're going to end up with this.
What I think it does, though, is it doesn't mean we fire all the artists. It means we fire 80% of them, and the 20% that are left are the best, and they are now the art directors and the taste makers that are going to be the filters and do the punch-ups and the touch-ups. And they're going to, man, I've been using this thing to generate like etched metal backgrounds that I use as textures on models and things like that I have a hard time seeing how it's not just a great thing and not a supercharger for productivity. And there are ethically sourced AIs now, and not like Adobe has their Firefly, where it's like they trained it on stuff that they had licenses and paid for.
Yeah, but that's not how it usually goes, right? That's what Hector's saying about this BA. The author was BA something. That's why I didn't understand it. But that article that we read was this guy going, look, he's a photographer in New York, and he's like, I used ChatGPT to see, what happened, and it gave him back one of his own pictures. And because he knows like what he does, he's like, I know that this picture, it was not put out into the world. It didn't just scrape it. It's from an interview with me from some magazine in June like 2013, and then he throws up this. Here's the picture. Like, look, it's the same. They didn't touch it. They didn't. And so that's, you don't have the right to that picture. The magazine did, but like AI doesn't.
I forget what they have a term.
That's what he was afraid of.
Yeah, when it does that, there's a term for that in AI when it's like too close to one of the original, just like it just basically gives you the source.
Right. There's a name for that. That's cool.
I forget what it is.
Yeah, that's all right.
They had like hallucinating is the term for what you were describing earlier, where which we all do. I still go back to the sense that like people go, it's not human, it's not smart like a human, doesn't have a soul like a human. I'm going, one, humans aren't that smart, probably don't have souls, and literally, if we do, our soul and our mind is built of language. We are large language models.
So what those people don't mean that. What they mean is that it's uncanny valley now, and it's probably going to get better. But like I'm telling you, there's no one can send me a piece of AI generated prose, and it doesn't fool me now. It doesn't. I mean, maybe you could get one, but like it's my feeling it's not. You can tell. I mean, it's
But could you tell the
soulless,
difference
like
between-
whatever that means to you,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on the subject. I've tried a few things. I haven't tried it extensively. Granted, one and two, I'm not a writer, so
Well, see, notice I never argue with you about this because you use it for generating code, and I get why this is all valuable. You know, taking a video and extrapolating the 3D out just from all the angles, that's bananas cool, right? But that's not what people mean. People are like, my sister's gonna fall in love with one.
I got news for you.
That's what they're worried about.
Most of our thumbnails lately, I really have turned to AI for a lot.
I know.
I mean,
it makes me sad.
But like when I come up with a pun and I want to, dude, I could have spent hours and hours and hours and hours and not come up with an image even close to as like satisfying as this is for what I wanted.
Yeah,
I could have. It would have been cool, but just wouldn't have been worth the time. I don't have that time. So
notice I don't give you shit about that either. It is like way not my preference, but it's like, you know, like that one of Dead Picard that you used for like a month straight. I was like, oh man. But the point is, you didn't ever have to tell me that. Like I would tell you, but it's like, no, he's doing that in the time he has available to do some fun, energetic new thing. So
this one's not AI. This one I sweated over. I spent so much time over for people to just like notice the Sirius logo on the space suit itself.
Yeah.
Like, and the Captain Fung graffiti, which I had custom generated and alpha mapped onto the background. Like, dude, so much effort that I spend on these things.
And you know what? That's a good one. But you know why? Because you can tell. Like the astronaut suit the astronaut suit that you like started fooling with, that like has a nice warm start for you, and you put all that other stuff.
Whatever.
See, I did it again. Whatever. It's gonna go, and it's all gonna settle out the way literally everything has since 1963, which is all I can really tell you about.
I mean, do you think like when desktop publishing, you're old enough to remember this exactly when it happened and be right in the thick of it when it happened, you know, and like the paste up guys are gone now. Those are
I actually have something to say about that. It's exactly what you said, because my first job out of college was a paste up guy working on an Apple II and they were trying to train the linotype operator that was doing all the headline generation, like to give him a job, because all these kids from college were like, here's your copy. Like it would take 10 seconds, right? And then you throw through the waxer and cut it up and bundle it. And then that's how I did comics, right? Because learning all that analog paste up with cutting rubylith and how Moray works and shooting stat cameras and stuff directly translated into desktop publishing.
Right.
I'm not sure that AI is going to directly translate, that you can go from your job to AI. I think AI is going to be the thing that comes the other way, and that's what's given everybody some agita.
Maybe. Right? Yeah, I think it'll be
like, we're getting replaced. Like nobody but the linotype operator thought he was being replaced when Max started getting in newspapers.
This is tough because it's such a more creative and personal thing. Like, no offense to the paste up guys, but there's only so many ways to paste up a piece of paper or whatever.
That's not true at all.
Well, true. I mean, it is an art, but it's a craft. It's more of a craft side than it is on the art side, let's say. Whereas like a penciler, the thing I find the most amazing about drawing is that like you can tell a person's style when you can like look at a picture and go like, I know who draw that by like the quality of the lines and stuff. It's such an amazing phenomenon of you know.
You can do that with prose though too. That's why I can tell that like it's not that it has no soul, it has no style that had aggregated over, the amount of time it took to learn how to do it. You know what I mean? They got the cheat sheet, the command codes, up, down, C, back, whatever the fuck you use on Nintendo. I'm that old. I don't know the cheat code thing. But that's what AI got trained on language. It didn't learn it. It was told that's how it works.
But I mean, so were you and I.
Nah, I learned it because I wasn't told how it works. I was held by the hand. I was shown by teachers. I was given assignments to create something. They said that's a good try. That's a solid B minus. You work harder. Oh, I got up to B plus. See what I mean?
But that's so close to the AI training process.
Only
it is different, but it's
only
analogous.
Metaphorically, though.
It's analogous, I think.
Right, but that's what gets everybody mad.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. It's analogous, and it's worse because people go, "I'm an AI artist now." It's like
that's lame. That's lame.
But it impacts everybody's view of the subject, right? There's 100 things that are like, "That's lame. That's lame. Oh my God, I don't like that." There's good stuff. Don't get me wrong, but you're not catching the normal people with the good stuff.
I'll say like when Flash animation came around and computer-based 2D animation, it basically killed the cell animation, hand-drawn cell animator. Well, that was gone. But the early adopters of that became innovators and went on.
No, they didn't, because Flash collapsed immediately.
No, but it was used very heavily in the TV animation production world, not just for Flash, but like many of the cartoons you saw on Cartoon Network and stuff were animated in Flash, and a lot of the John Kay did a ton of stuff using Flash as an animation platform, and it was different. It was vector animation and had a different quality to it for sure. But what I'm saying is that like this is just the story of humanity, right? A new tool changes the way we do things, and I don't think it destroys art. It just changes it.
You're just worried about the wrong thing. Like you're worried about, destroying art, or everybody is, right? It's like that's not it at all. It's just another tool. And
but what would happen if you read a story and said, "Man, this was genuinely moving," and then you were told it was done by an AI after the fact?
What would happen?
I mean, would it change your mind about what you're saying?
No, it might. No, not in a general sense. Because that's not happening a lot. Like if that happened once, I would like, well, who's the guy that they got to code this? Because it's only one person. If this is an aggregate, then it's all over, right? Because the first time that it looks like somebody's making logic leaps and in an article, or something's tying together something beforehand, something that's absolutely not rote, and that's generated by an AI, then I'll be like, well, what do we need people for? Right? Because you saw that thing that's going around, right? That like me doing all the hard work and robots painting and coloring is not the future, I thought, and whatever they said. And that's the thing. They're trying to solve the wrong problem, man. Like get all these robots and let them go nuts, like, doing stuff so we all get to sit around and paint and draw.
There's all these YouTube channels with AI generated video right now that are just insane acid trips to watch. But like you can imagine a not too far of a jump where you could literally just be like, give me Larry Young as Indiana Jones.
That's why the writers are striking.
Right. And well, I mean,
because that's going to happen.
But I don't mean write me a script of Larry Young. I mean, generate a movie in real time with Larry, a realistic looking Larry in a movie. Swap this actor for that actor. Those kind of things are on our not far horizon anymore, but like extremely near horizon.
Yeah, I agree. But then we get into the whole like, well, then it's Pogs or Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or NFTs or Beanie Babies, right? It's just something everybody's into, and then it burns out and everybody goes, oh, that's cool. Like, I really think that AI right now for generating creative stuff is like Segways. Remember when they came out? Dean Kamen was telling Wired and anyone who would listen, this is literally going to change transportation for mankind. It's going to change everybody just must throw money into cities. Yeah. There's going to be new infrastructure.
They called it the Ginger. Remember, it was top secret.
And then everybody went, I guess we can play some kind of polo broom soccer with these things. But otherwise, it's just a joke. And that's what's going to happen with AI. Like,
and my favorite Segway story was the guy who was the president of the Segway company died by driving a Segway off a cliff accidentally.
Right.
A clumsy guy. That's the greatest. That's the greatest end.
Agreed.
Any human being, right?
That kind of stuff is what makes me think that there is some weird matrixy control of everything. It's like, well, that guy's getting a little stupid. Let's just make him drive his shit off the cliff.
Right. But I just think technology has a great history of eliminating middlemen, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's from distribution, sales, or the creative pipeline, right? Like getting something from the creator to the end user with as few people sucking up resources, if you want to call it that, in between those things. We get to a point where it'll be like, this is a nightmare scenario. This is my post-apocalyptic media scenario. Just all you need is the ownership of the IP, and then you just set the AIs loose on it, and you don't have any animators, writers, cinematographers, actors, voice actors, nothing. Completely digital synthesis.
What's the point of that, though? So who are you making that for?
Well, I did for the endless appetite of people for garbage. I just think you could produce cartoons, let's say for kids, bad cartoons for kids that kids would eat up with a freaking spoon.
I think that's what the strike is about, and why the creatives and why the Teamsters are in on this. Everybody's in on this. The Directors Guild, it's everybody versus the studios. So they own the IP. And so if you're advocating for that, you're advocating for a whole bunch of people to just go away. And
but then I go like,
so what? That's their problem.
No, but I go, the technology, the genie's out of the bottle, right? So in the sense that, like, even if you make laws that say you're not allowed to do this, there's the fact that you could do it. There will be somebody in the Ukraine or whatever, in Russia or Eastern Europe or in Asia or whatever, and they will be able to put these things out. I don't know how they'll be able to monetize or whatever. Maybe they will or won't. But I can see a future that a lot less creative people are required and get a piece of the pie. And I think that's the end goal of the producers and the writers and everything. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm saying but it seems like an inevitable consequence of this type of technology. I'm definitely not.
Well, has the horse left the barn? That's really the end of every conversation I have about this. Like, you can war game all kinds of stuff, but we don't really know if the horse has left the barn yet, because I think you could stop all this right now and go, that's fucking nonsense. Just pull the plug, man. That's all. But human nature isn't like that, right? So
I don't know how you do that. How do you do that? You enforce it? You make a federal law against? I just don't.
Just like, here's an area of inquiry that's really bad for the human.
Oh, race. Okay.
You know, and you can't do anything about the Nigerian princes, right? But just like have
chemical weapons or whatever,
right? Just treat it like this is a thing that we need to keep locked up, and the people who have been trained in it can deal with.
Okay, I would agree with that, except for the fact that whatever Geneva Convention says, whatever these laws say, do you think we don't have the deepest, darkest chemical?
I do.
Weapons labs in the world.
I'm not saying that the horse doesn't exist. I'm saying as of right now, the horse is living in the barn, and it comes out every once in a while with some guys who know what they're doing. Like, if the doors are just left open and the horse takes off, that's a different thing, right? So I think it is. That's how you should treat it. You should treat it like sarin gas. This is something that we need to have, and for whatever reason, and maybe we'll do something cool with it in the future. But as of right now, everybody needs to fucking keep their heads.
That's the problem with it. Like nuclear. It's like we could control access to plutonium and to centrifuges and to whatever, right? But with this stuff, it's open source. There's open source code out there, and it's just all about how you train it. Like the code is what it is. It's just like your pit bull. There's no evil bad AIs. It's just you train them to do things that are infringing or not. And I just believe they're somebody's gonna train them for sure. And we'll see. If not, propaganda, waves of false propaganda happening.
Well, you saw the thing just today, right? The AI picture of the Pentagon explosion.
No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, somebody posted a thing, and it was in India, and then it was picked up by some other country. Yeah. And it dropped the stock market 20 points.
Yeah.
Everybody thought the Pentagon had blown up, and it's the thing is, you look at that picture, and it's like, why did that fool anybody? This entire half of the picture is a cloud that looks like somebody took gravy and put it in a water bucket. Right?
Yes,
it doesn't. That looks nothing like an explosion, but it worked for everybody because
that's you don't need to be that good, and now it's getting so much good. Like the gap in that what the uncanny valley effect is starting to disappear, and if you really know what you're doing, it's gone. I mean, we're in it's sort of like you ever want, like when you get those spam emails. I've always wondered this for years. It's like, who falls for those spam emails where it's like broken English in a letter from Bank of America and it's FedEx, right? You know what I mean? Like
EXC or something, right?
But somebody does. And then I go like, man, if only these criminals were a tiny bit smarter, or like had one guy who actually spoke English to do some proofreading for, how much bigger would their hit rate be on these kind of attacks? I think a lot bigger, a lot.
I do think though that those people have trained me that it actually messes up my real stuff sometimes, because I will delete. I get hundreds. Everyone gets hundreds of spam emails a day, and I'll just like read through really fast, and unless I recognize the person sending it or the subject title is something that I have to deal with, I had to train all my friends. Don't send me something important that the subject line is like, here's that Asian porn you asked for, because I will delete that immediately. And like, I'm not, I don't get to, oh, it's my friend's Mark being funny, right? And so now I just do that all the time. And last year I'm glad I got COVID right during San Diego, because I didn't have to deal with this. But right near the end, like everything's getting all frenetic, and I forgot to get my parking pass, right? And I'm like, I can't do this show if I can't get my car in there. And they're like, well, you missed the deadline. And I'm like, well, I've been an exhibitor for 27 years. Now what? Right? You can't tell me there's not a parking spot for me. And they're like, yeah, but we sent it to you and you delete it again. That's not what we're talking about. I just want the parking spot, right? No, I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. If we have to say it's somebody's fault, it's 100% mine, because I deleted your nonsense. But that's because of the world we live in now. And so, but folks have all those conversations.
If you're wondering where to send your Asian porn pictures to, there'll be an email at the end of the show. You can forward them straight to there.
I don't need any Asian porn.
We definitely don't need it. We appreciate it. We appreciate all your support out there, folks. We appreciate
if somebody wants to send me porn, like I'll give you my list. I don't need any Asian porn.
My Nigerian account
guarantees a large
amount. It's hilarious because like, as terrible as those things are, and as like patently obvious, so many people fall for them, and the spamming, and I just feel like those are the people who are going to use Chat GPT to like write me a letter to solicit this thing, instead of being full of.
Well, then here's how we fix that.
Yeah,
because that's what the problem is. You just have to pass a test, like get a driver's license. You have to pass I can do critical thinking and understand what nonsense is test. It's not even it wouldn't even have to be many questions. Do you think Ron DeSantis is smart going up against Florida? Yes or no? Like that'll take out half your people right there. No, I'm sorry, sir, you don't get access to the internet.
Who are you voting for, Larry? Trump or DeSantis? I was wondering about that.
Those two?
I thought you were voting for, I know you voted for one of them.
Between those two, it's a write-in.
Who's the write-in? Who's the write-in? If you had to go, I go, who's a Republican?
The ghost of Joseph Stalin.
Who's a Republican?
Makes more sense than those two morons.
I could stomach voting for. Like, there used to at least be like John McCain. And
I mean,
I could, he's a war hawk, but at the same time, he earned the right maybe to be it or whatever.
See,
but
I'm from the time where, Lyndon Johnson is the most, he was a Democrat, but he would work with guys across the aisle. Like the whole time up until about George Bush II, people would at least give lip service to the fact that they're reaching across the aisle.
Yeah, Biden's that kind of guy too. He's from
he is. But but something happened right before Trump where everybody just went, no, fuck you, it's our way now. And it's like, you can't run a country that way.
Well, but the only time you really got to worry is when these fuckers agree on something. That's the one time. That's the one time when they are truly bending us over. Like the military budget increased this year. Fucking A, let's put it through. America first. Like that's when you got to go. Like
I want to go back to. I want to go back to when I didn't worry about the fact that the whole place was on fire. You know, like this dumpster fire thing meme that you see all the time. Nobody thought like that. 1973, during the OPEC oil crisis, that was a pain in the ass, but everybody didn't fear for their lives, for their way of life.
I don't know.
I was in rural Vermont.
Yeah, I don't remember it well enough, but I think it would depend on where you were at and your perspective on that one.
Well, just in America, right? There's people getting annoyed, but you weren't worried. You'd be upset. Like I'm in line for 2 hours, right, to get a half a tank of gas. They're only allowing 5 gallons or whatever. But you weren't worried that was a thing that's just how the world was now, and you had to deal with it. You knew that whatever problems that we have had up until now, I always felt like, well, they'll figure it out. Yeah, we're getting screwed. Yeah, taxes went up, but we're mostly fine. It's not that way now.
That's exactly how Ronald Reagan got swept into power. It was like the Carter malaise days of America. And then Carter's like, it's a new morning in America, folks. And like, here's the way. Yeah. And really ushering in a whole new age of like neoliberalism really came from Ronald Reagan. Like after Ronald Reagan, Milton Friedman School of Economics and all these libertarian kind of ideas infected both sides, and that's where we're at now with this neoliberal regime that we have.
I didn't do my reading on the Keynesian economy. I spelled Exeter wrong, man. I mean, come on.
I know. I mean,
it's just not. It's not fun for me to talk about that because you're right, man. The whole thing is just the game is fixed, right? I mean, okay.
Which is why I think that's where Star Trek, let's bring it all the way back to Star Trek, Larry. That's where in the new Star Trek stuff, where they tried to make it a post-modern, post-Cold War Star Trek, and where you doubt your own institutions and stuff like that. That's where like Picard season 1 and 2 we're trying to go. We're trying to get into. We're like a world where it's not that cozy, comfy. You can't trust the government the way you thought. And whereas I do believe that's true, it probably doesn't fit that well with Star Trek, what it is to be Star Trek.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? That's why everyone says that the new Kurtzman Star Trek stuff isn't Star Trek. It's an imperfect way of saying it, right? And everybody wants to fight about that. Well, it's Star Trek. It says Star Trek on it. But that's what they mean, right? Like they don't, the guys running it, like Kurtzman says, Star Trek is not aspirational. Like right there. Like, dude, no, you don't understand the IP that you're writing for. Because it 100% is. And further, that's what people like about it, right? So now you're coming from a point where what you're producing is not what people want. The original Star Trek fans want. There's tons of folks who do want it now. And God bless you, but you can't shut up the people that are like, that's not Star Trek, because it's not.
It really is like, Paul Verhoeven's interpretation of Starship Troopers, whereas like Heinlein was such a raw, gung-ho veteran. He believed that stuff deep in his soul. He believed all that civics lessons bullshit about you had to be a veteran or you don't matter. Like he really believed that stuff.
Right.
And Verhoeven definitely did not, and was like trying to be the direct opposite.
But that's the difference, right? Because he adapted an existing property by satirizing it.
Genius.
And Mike McMahon, who does Lower Decks, adapted a property by satirizing, right? It took all the Star Trek and put it up to 11. It's just 11 on the silly scale.
Right? Yeah.
But he understands what people like and want from it. And so did Verhoeven. Kurtzman, he gets the blame, right? I kind of want to be, I've shit on him for 5 years straight. So I kind of feel like it can't possibly be his fault, because if it was one guy's fault, you could change your mind in the onslaught of being incorrect, right? I don't think he's a jerk. You don't get to the politics of Hollywood with not knowing how things work. It's just he doesn't know how Star Trek works. And if he was smart, he would hire somebody who did.
Well, but don't you know now, and now that we've seen Strange New Worlds and Picard season 3, don't you think Kurtzman had that dark night of the soul, and he took a deep look at himself, and he's like, I thought people wanted not Trek, and what they really want is Star Trek, right? And like they made that shift. I give him credit for.
They have, but it wasn't his idea. Akiva Goldsman shuffled him off.
I got it, but it happened. Yeah, okay. That I don't know. See, that's where I don't know the inner workings of the hierarchy.
But that's informs what Star Trek fans think, right?
But like everybody came to that conclusion. Everybody, Paramount came to that conclusion. Well, everybody agreed, right?
And nobody was watching it. Like, okay.
And how crappy is that for that guy? I get why he would become hyper defensive. I get why he, I don't know.
I get it if he's completely wrapped up in his own ego, or if he's trying to tell good stories with a property he didn't invent. I think that coming from comics, like I get that unless you're Kurt Swan, everybody's gonna compare your Superman to that, right? Like Jack Kirby's faces got redrawn. Jack Kirby, you know what I mean? So there's an expectation from the audience and the IP owners, and then the middle guy has to make both ends happy. Kurtzman was only listening to his bosses.
Yeah.
So
nobody really succeeded at Kurt Swan until John Byrne. I think he was the only one. When I talked to Paul Levitz about it, I was like, even Paul, who I think I could tell, Paul Levitz does not like John Byrne. Like, I think I could tell just by the conversation I had with him.
That's a pretty crusty guy.
A lot of people don't.
I imagine working with him is very difficult.
But I could tell he didn't like him. And the one way I could tell is I kind of cornered him, and I was like, Paul, like of all the reboots of Superman in modern age, how come none of them stuck except John Byrne? And he was like begrudgingly agreed. He's like, yeah, it's really nobody really did it right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, speaking of doing it right, Larry, we've done it again.
Yeah.
Just a 2-man episode of Serious Star Trek.
And we did an hour. You were like, I might have to go. And you got the call, and then we filled it up, man. I
was going to have to bail. Talked about what? AI, another AI-filled hour.
I always enjoy talking to you. I want to be wrong about the AI thing.
Well,
I don't think I am, because I only ever say, I hope it works.
What'll be the end result of it will be even harder to get jobs in Hollywood, I think. That's what it'll be. It'll be there no matter what, there will just be less of them, and they'll be harder to obtain without knowing someone.
Walker, I can do this real quick. Walker and I were talking about this because he wants to be a screenwriter.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but here's the thing. I was saying a similar thing to you. It's like, man, it's gonna be rough. Gotta really work on your creativity to outpace the machines. And he's like, I'm not gonna have to worry about it. He's like, why? I was like, because there's gonna be 15 different platforms between now and what I end up working on just 10 years from now. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, the Met Gala invited YouTube influencers. I'm like, that's all you need to know, Daddy. And he's like so into Met Gala because of Ocean's 8. We were like, Mimi was telling him, this is a real thing that exists. And now he's like, he follows it. And so the Met invited like YouTube influencers. Like, are you out of your mind? No, it's because those guys are celebrities. Right.
So that reminds me, go watch Ian Hubert's new Dynamo Dream episode. Larry, you gotta watch it. If you don't watch those, I don't know who it's for.
I know what dream?
Dynamo Dream. Remember I showed the thing, the hyperbole, the dudes on the jets.
I do. I totally remember that. Yeah.
Okay, so that guy, he's got a series called Dynamo Dream, and he puts that out like one episode, like 1 10 or 15-minute piece every year or so, maybe.
Uh-huh.
He's getting a little faster. Sometimes it took like 3 years for the first one, 1 year for the next one. And then he does Patreon tutorials. This guy, Ian Hubert. I would be nowhere in Blender without
That's awesome.
what I
learned. I just pulled it up. It's like upcoming science fiction dystopian cyberpunk web series. I'm like, you had me at hello.
Just watch the first episode, Larry, and I think you'll agree. Like, you're gonna want to watch the second episode, which is, I think, the best compliment you can give to something. And the fact is, he did it all in Blender. Okay, and using not a giant studio. He's got all these techniques for using it. He's got a green screen like smaller than what I got going on here, and like, so it's so inspiring about what you can do. And then now these new techniques for bringing digital assets in and then being able to combine them and blend them together.
Yeah, man, I'm into it.
I think
you showed one thing that you showed a two. I think it was you. It was a 2-image thing where one was the movie that was made and the other was just the camera. It's all camera moves in a green screen, right? Just some guy and he walks.
Oh yes, yes.
He walks up on some stairs, but you watch the movie and he's
that was Ian Hubert.
That was right. So that was fantastic. So I'll definitely check it out. Walker and I watched that.
And he does breakdowns, complete tutorials on how to do exactly what he's doing there, using software that is 100% free to own and use, and it's just, we're in a world now where Walker can. That's what I think, is that the only thing these companies have left is the intellectual property and the nostalgia hooks into our brains. That's all they have to leverage, because all the creativity is really in the people. And so now that we have ways to directly monetize audiences, I mean, I've stopped my Paramount Plus subscription. I've stopped a lot of my subscriptions, and I do Patreon subscriptions directly to artists who create things.
Oh, that's cool.
That I love and that speak to me.
I like it.
Well, I've driven away enough of our viewers with this sober, reflective, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see it. I want to see it work on Star Trek. Give me an AI generated episode that's just nothing but William Shatner from 1966. Doing crazy crap.
I think I can guarantee we're going to see that within 5 years. I'm going to make that bet.
I don't think it's going to be really cool actors. I think we'll probably see it, but it's just going to be, some journeyman actor from Canada who gets famous because he's the star of the new AI thing everybody watches. You know what I mean? I think celebrity just goes away the way it is now. I think human nature will always be like, oh, here's a person that we admire for runs the fastest or the prettiest or whatever, right? Tells the funniest jokes. But you don't need that anymore, right? It doesn't have to be those guys. You don't have to pass it by the manager in the club. If you want to be a stand-up comedian, I'll film you right now.
Totally.
So that stuff's going to change. I don't know.
Larry, I got to bring us out here. Okay. With that, I don't know. That means our time is up for the day. Thank you. You've broken that.
I'm gonna get that tattoo. Just
I'll leave you with
what the fuck ever. I'm out of here.
Leave you the ray of sunshine that people have been led to believe they're special, and the bubbles burst when they realize they are not.
Yeah.
I think it's true. I really do believe we are all not much more than large language models ourselves. I believe our souls do not exist except as an illusion created in our brains. And that's the miracle, nevertheless. It's just the miracle of numbers. When you get so many numbers and you can create incredibly complex patterns from very tiny, small.
Are you just hung up on the religious aspect of it? Because soul doesn't really bother me. I mean, I agree with you, but it's more like it's a metaphor for what makes us human, right?
Agreed.
So what do you call that? You got to call it something.
Well, I agreed. But what I'm saying is, what it is, it's made of language.
It's made of fat and bacon.
It's made of language with a thimble full of that stuff, of connective tissue, but then there were mostly water and a few connections.
It's just electricity, man. That's why I think something's going on. I don't know what it is, and it's not an old man in a robe waiting for us with our families, but energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only changed in form. And your brain is energy. So maybe it just dissipates. I don't know. That's change in form, So
maybe we are just simulations. We are just complex computer simulations in somebody.
What a sweet relief that would be.
Totally.
all that pain you had, it was just programmed. All that stuff that went wrong, and you know, hung yourself or sat in a car with a motor running. Didn't matter. That was your plan for your program. It's no big deal, pal.
All right. Well, sweet relief. We're gonna respawn though.
Sweet relief.
We're gonna respawn next week, Larry, and it's gonna be next week. Oh, wait a minute. This Thursday, I got Don Simpson coming in to talk funny.
That's cool
with me. You're welcome to join if you'd like, but I think it's probably just gonna be me and John.
Yeah, I don't want it. I would just sit there like this, like.
Doors always open, Larry. I hope you'll at least watch and comment. Maybe
I definitely will. I will definitely watch.
Because
I'll ask you to talk about the story that you're working on. Ooh, like, I don't think people are giving you enough credit for that.
Well, I don't know. Wait till it comes out, because it ain't. It's what it is. It's got its moments, but I will say it's my first attempt.
Did you do the job? Yes.
I think I did. I tried to channel Alan Moore in a sense that he likes to weave in like real scientific stuff and real historical references and stuff like that. But like, man, I'm swimming in the wake of a giant. So I don't know. I did the best I could. We're talking about the giant size 1963 annual that's coming out from 100% Comics, coming soon. We've actually legally licensed half of the 1963 characters.
Did you really?
We got the license from the set, and they said, okay, you can. We got it for free. They just said, yeah, you can do it. So we can use the real names. You don't need any license to use the term 1963. It's untrademarkable, uncopyrightable.
Right.
And then we made up analogs for the rest of the characters. And how is Alan Moore supposed to complain about that? Right? Like,
I'm sorry, you ripped off my guys that I ripped off.
It would only make the project go like through the roof if Alan Moore. I'm going to bet, like, please, Alan Moore, please sue us for stealing your brilliant ideas and your characters and stuff. And how ironic that would be. Oh, that would be delicious. I still can't get us out of here yet, Larry, though. But speaking of which, I just reached out again to, oh my God, my Robert Crumb connection, Dennis Kitchen, about whether Robert Crumb authorized the Mr. Natural usage in the Chippendale movie.
Oh yeah,
he's like, oh, I want to know myself, and I'm gonna ask him, and he's like, but he hasn't had a chance to yet. So I'm hot on the trail of that, folks. I am gonna break that story, and I'll be the guy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So this week, Don Simpson. Next Thursday, Tom Scioli is coming back.
Nice.
I had him on before to talk about his book about Jack Kirby. He's written one about Stan Lee, and so we're gonna dive in to the greasy side of Stan.
I would talk to that guy for an hour just about the 2001 rip he did with Joe Casey.
Oh yeah, Godland, right?
Godland, yeah, I love that comic.
Yeah.
That was great.
Or you should look at The Myth of 8 Opus, his earlier book, his pre-Godland book by Tom Scioli. Plus, he's done G.I. Joe, Transformer stuff. He's done a world of different stuff. I'll talk to him about Stan Lee, and what I love is I'll be able to talk to him for real, the way I like to talk about Stan Lee, which is like the real deal. He has I'm not a slavish fanboy, but I'm also not a Stan hater. Like, he's a real, he's a man, he's a human, and I want to talk about the human that is Stan Lee.
Have you been reading Beer Bomb's Facebook about? He's just, man, that guy is
my favorite. It's one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite. It's a guilty pleasure, but I love that stuff.
I don't have any subject that I would go that deep, that angry all the time about.
The anger's deep with that guy. I've had conversations with him too. I really think there's a good guy, and but he got hurt. That's
what it is. No, I think Bob's awesome. I love that guy.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff has happened in that guy's life, and so I understand where he's coming from sometimes. Maybe. Anyway, we're getting maudlin now. What's happening, Larry?
We need some AI to entertain us.
Yes, let's get us back on track. Okay, I'm gonna get us out of here. I got a little clip to play here, but we're gonna be back next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Earth time. But where? Captain Fun, where?
On the internet.